Good. We thought it lasted 100 years. Yeah. Well, so they scanned it all in and they emailed it to him, and they invited him.
President, thank you for joining us. Let's start with North Korea. I know a lot of people have been talking about it. You mentioned it over the weekend with CBS. Kim Jong-un. Is there a red line for President Trump with North Korea?
Well, I'm not like President Obama, where you draw a red line, as he said, a red line in the sand, and then lots of bad things happen, and he never goes over the red line. In fact, I actually covered his red line for him with Syria. But I will say that you see what's going on. It's very, very bad. It's very threatening to us and to many other allies. If you look at South Korea, if you look at Japan and others, it's a very horrible thing that's going on. And the statements are very inflammatory. They're horrible. So we'll have to see. I don't like drawing red lines, but I act if I have to act.
What would it take? Would it take a missile launch into South Korea, conventional?
You know, look, I've been pretty well known for saying, like, nothing when it comes to the military. When they announced they were going into Mosul in 4 months, and then they said in 3 months, in 2 months, we're going in next week. I said, why do they keep saying that? And that was supposed to be a pretty quick battle for Mosul. Guess what? It's still going on. Because the enemy knew they were coming. You just don't talk about it. You do what you have to do, and you don't talk about it. So when people say, well, I was asked a question yesterday. Well, I mean, exactly when would you go in? At what time would you go in? I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't want to talk about it. I can say this. He's very threatening. He's a big threat to the world.
How safe are our troops that are along the demilitarized zone and our ally in South Korea? How safe are they with some of the defense systems that we've provided? And what's the status of those?
Well, nobody's safe. I mean, who's safe? The guy's got nuclear weapons. I'd like to say they're very safe. These are great, brave soldiers. These are great troops. And they know this situation. We have 28,000 troops on the line. And they're right there. And so nobody's safe. We're probably not safe over here. If he gets the long-range missiles, we're not safe either. So we have to do something about it, and we'll see what happens.
Is he your biggest concern, foreign policy-wise?
I think probably yes. Look, we have ISIS. We're doing very well on ISIS. We have made tremendous strides in our fight against ISIS, and we have no choice. Not that we want to do this. We have no choice. There's an evil there, and we have to solve that. We've got to get. We can't let, you know. When I first saw the heads being chopped off, I said to myself, never seen that. Not since medieval times have we seen the things that are going on in the Middle East. So we have to solve the problem. We should have never been there. We should have never gone in. We should have never attacked Iraq. They didn't knock down the World Trade Center, by the way. But once we were there, we should have never gotten out the way President Obama got us out. That void was formed, and ISIS was formed, and now they're in 32 different countries. And I tell you what, I inherited a mess.
North Korea warns of catastrophic consequences. USS Carl Vinson strike group carries out exercises with South Korean Navy as North's media warns stop running wild. South Korea and the United States wrapped up their annual large-scale military drills on Sunday but continued a separate joint naval exercise that has triggered the threat of nuclear war from North Korea. The USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier group arrived in waters near the Korean peninsula and began exercises with the South Korean Navy late on Saturday. The South Korean Navy declined to say when the exercises would be completed. North Korea has threatened to sink the American Armada. Tensions on the Korean peninsula have been running sky-high for weeks, with signs the North might be preparing a sixth nuclear weapon test, and with Washington refusing to rule out a military strike in response. The massive full legal military exercises, which the Defense Ministry in Seoul said ended as scheduled on Sunday, involved about 20,000 South Korean and 10,000 U.S. troops. Another annual joint maneuver known as Key Resolve ended last month. Both play out scenarios for a conflict with North Korea, but Seoul and Washington insist they are purely defensive in nature. Pyongyang says the drills are provocative plans for an invasion or a decapitation strike against the North Korean leadership. A North Korean state-run newspaper on Sunday warned of catastrophic consequences, accusing the USS Carl Vinson strike force of rehearsing a preemptive attack on the North in a special operation. This has pushed the tense situation on the Korean peninsula to an unpredictable, dangerous phase, said the Minjuchuseon in a commentary. The enemies have to know that military threat and blackmail with the mobilization of nuclear carriers and nuclear submarines cannot work on the DPRK, it said, using the acronym for the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The U.S. and the puppet group of traitors have to ponder over the catastrophic consequences to be entailed by their foolish military provocation, and stop running wild. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned of a possible major conflict after Pyongyang carried out a series of failed missile tests, including one on Saturday. North Korean ballistic missile tests are banned by the United Nations because they are seen as part of Pyongyang's push for a nuclear-tipped weapon that can hit the U.S. mainland. Trump said North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will eventually develop better missiles, and we can't allow it to happen. In a taped interview broadcast Sunday on U.S. network CBS, the president would not discuss the possibility of military action, saying, "It is a chess game. I just don't want people to know what my thinking is." Trump will speak with the leaders of Singapore and Thailand on Sunday over the potential for nuclear and massive destruction in Asia, because of the situation with North Korea, White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus said. "There is nothing right now facing this country and facing the region that is a bigger threat than what is happening in North Korea," he said. The US and South Korea also started installing a missile defense system that is supposed to be partially operational within days. The Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD, is controversial in South Korea. Residents in the village of Sungj, where the missile system is being deployed, scuffled with police on Sunday. Trump raised eyebrows in South Korea last week when he said would make Seoul pay $1 billion for the missile system. His national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, said on Sunday the matter is subject to negotiation. Caitlyn Jenner just threatened the president, Trump stunned by these two words. "I thought we were done with the whole Bruce, Caitlyn Jenner thing. Silly me." After having her transformation jammed down our throats a couple years ago, conservatives everywhere hoped that perhaps Jenner would simply take her money and recede into the shadows. That's not what liberals do, though. They find ways to keep complaining, which they call fighting, and even more annoyingly, they find ways to keep attacking Republicans on every possible issue. They believe in equal rights, provided they get preferential treatment. They believe in freedom of speech, provided you're saying what they want you to say. And unfortunately, these enemies of America have no off switch. Now, Jenner has issued a very personal threat to President Donald Trump, and it basically says, "You're going to toe the progressive line or you're going to have to deal with me." Oh really? As Breitbart reports, citing Jenner's recent 2020 interview, Caitlyn Jenner has issued a warning to President Donald Trump and the Republican Party: "Treat the LGBT community unfairly, and you'll have to deal with me." The former Olympic gold medalist turned reality TV star, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, challenged the president in a 2020 interview with Diane Sawyer set to air Friday night. Jenner told Sawyer that what the LGBT community needs from Republican legislators is federal guidance, including on transgender service in the military. Strangely, Jenner has always said he's more conservative than people think, and he supports the Constitution. He even supported the Trump campaign last year at one point. But of course, liberals all fall back into position at one point or another. The instant Trump lifted federal guidelines for transgender bathroom use, Jenner went ballistic and called the decision a disaster. Now he steps on Twitter and says flat out, "You made a promise to protect the LGBTQ community. Call me. I'm just going to assume he isn't serious." Contrary to popular leftist belief, the President of the United States doesn't have to consult liberals about everything. Lefties don't have the authority to sign off on everything. No, they don't. In fact, they never did, which is precisely why they're so ticked off now. Their liberal Gestapo doesn't have the control it once had, and they vent their frustration by resorting to thug tactics. Know what these people really want? What's happening in Venezuela right now? Anybody want to take a trip down there and see how well socialism is working? OMG. Right after Trump called out CNN at his rally, watch all hell break loose. President Trump held a rally in Pennsylvania last night to celebrate his 100th day in office. He held this rally for the same night as the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where the media gathered to trash him. But the mainstream media still had to broadcast Trump's event on live TV, so he took full advantage of it. Trump took the opportunity to blast the media, and then all hell broke loose. Hollywood actors and Washington media are consoling each other in a hotel ballroom in our nation's capital right now. And I could not possibly be more thrilled than to be more than 100 miles away from Washington's swamp, spending my evening with all of you. A much larger crowd, and much better people. Right after he said this, the entire crowd, tens of thousands of people started chanting "CNN sucks" while it was being broadcasted live on CNN. This even surprised President Trump. Watch this amazing moment, then share on Facebook if you have already boycotted CNN. Surprise, President Trump just revealed a special treat for every Trump supporter. This is great. President Donald Trump has had a ton of success since he took office, although the mainstream media would rather you not know about it. That's why today he unveiled a special treat for all his supporters to enjoy that the media will hate. A brand new website that sets the record straight. The first 100 Days website by Trump tells all of his amazing, historic achievements so we the people can see the kind of president he actually is. Trump lists all the biggies, including creating over 500,000 new American jobs. Approved Dakota Access Pipeline. A 60% drop in illegal immigration. Hold sanctuary cities accountable. Increased military budget. 5-year lobbying ban and lifetime foreign lobbying ban. Got Neil Gorsuch confirmed to the Supreme Court. And much more. See what I mean? That's not too shabby for only having been president for 3 months. At least he hasn't done anything to decimate our country like Obama did. Here, check out a bit of the site for yourself so you can see. Like I said, not too bad. So let's show Donald Trump that we the people know the truth. He is a great president who keeps his promises. Their lies and spins won't change that. If you want to help build up Trump's legacy, then help him get this shared to anyone and everyone you know with a big thank you, President Trump. Trump just got huge news that he wasn't expecting. This is going to change America for years to come. The first 100 days of the president's term have finished. In his time in office, he had maintained his loyal base of supporters while gaining some more support from those who view him as a strong leader. Many are very satisfied with the job he has done combating radical Islamic terrorism and pressuring companies to keep jobs in the United States. People are excited to see the economy doing better than ever in over 15 years. A new ABC News poll showed that the majority of Americans feel the media purposefully publishes false stories. A total of 80% feels this is the case. 76% of the president's supporters feel that he is honest. A whopping 84% of his supporters feel that he has upheld his legislative campaign trail promises, showing that his support is doing better than ever. A recent Pew Research poll showed his support at 50%, a peak for him thus far. However, the Washington Post reported it currently stands at 42%. For overall support by those who voted for him, The president is raking in a 94% approval rating. 96% of those people who voted for him feel they made the right decision and are not regretful of what they did. All of them said they would vote for him again. 54% of those polled said he has the right to travel to his hotels if he so chooses. These statistics prove that the president is doing better than ever in the eyes of his supporters and his loyal base of followers. Despite liberal narratives that he is doing poorly, his supporters can clearly see how well he is doing in the Oval Office. He dropped the largest artillery bomb in Afghanistan and has ordered special operative operations to defeat ISIS. The president dropped 59 Tomahawk missiles on a Syrian airbase that dropped chemical weapons on their own people. He spearheaded health care reform before ultimately being betrayed by congressional Republicans. He implemented his travel ban order as well as rolled back the Clean Power Plan Initiative and the Dakota Access Pipeline and Keystone Pipeline Initiative halt. All of which were taking jobs out of American households and strangling middle-class Americans. In reference to her boss's first 100 days, Kellyanne Conway said the following. Justice Neil M. Gorsuch sits on the Supreme Court. Illegal border crossings are at a 17-year low. U.S. exports have spiked to a 2-year high. A recent study found that 89% of the broadcast media's coverage of President Trump has been negative, even as objective measures indicate that Americans are feeling extraordinarily optimistic with President Trump at the helm. Yet most Americans discern the difference between news and noise, and they want their country, and their president, to succeed. In 3 short months, President Trump has delivered on his vow to the forgotten men and women of America to upend a swamp-like system that favors special interests and the powerful. The president even told the Associated Press, "I've done a lot. I've done more than any other president in the first 100 days. The foundations have been set to do some great things." The White House Chief of Staff said, "He's accomplished so many of his goals. I know there are narratives out there that say otherwise. But we look at it and see a president working at breakneck speed, somebody who is going as fast as he can within the confines of the law, running through that punch list of promises that he made during the campaign. Everyone has got good things to say except the mainstream liberal media. But that is to be expected. The best is yet to come, and most people understand that. The people can see how bright the future is based on what the president has achieved thus far in his presidency. They know that so much more is to come, and their opinions are likely reflective of how they feel the future will turn out as well. The president should be proud at how the public feels about him. Nobody was expecting him to do this well, and he is.
제국주의자들이 날로 악랄해지는 핵전쟁 위협에 대처한 우리 첫 수소탄 시험과 각이한 공격 수단들의 시험 발사, 핵탄도 폭발 시험이 성공적으로 진행되었으며 첨단 무장 장비 연구 개발 사업이 활발해지고 대륙간 탄도 로켓 시험 발사 준비 사업이 마감 단계에 이른 것을 비롯하여 국방력 강화를 위한 경이적인 사변들이 다계단으로 연발적으로 이룩됨으로써 조국과 민족의 운명을 수호하고 사회주의 강국 건설 위협을 승리적으로 전진시켜 나갈 수 있는 위력한 군사적 담보가 마련되었습니다. 남조선을 타고 앉아 아시아 태평양 지배 전략을 실현하려는 미국을 비롯한 외세의 침략과 간섭 책동을 끝장내며 진정한 민족의 주족도 가려보지 못하고 동족 대결에서 살 길을 찾는 박근혜와 같은 반통일 4대 매국 세력이 준동을 분쇄하기 위한 전민족적 투쟁을 힘있게 벌여야 합니다. 미국은 조선민족의 통일 의지를 똑바로 보고 남조선의 반통일 세력을 동족 대결과 전쟁으로 부추기는 민족 이간 술책에 더 이상 매달리지 말아야 하며 시대착오적인 대조선 적대시 정책을 철회할 용단을 내려야 합니다.
北朝鮮のミサイル発射は断じて容認できません。私とトランプ大統領は日米同盟をさらに緊密化し、そして強化していくことで完全に一致をいたしました。
I just want everybody to understand and fully know that the United States of America stands behind Japan, its great ally, 100%.
North Korea has shown itself to be an irresponsible nation in every way, and I'm sure they're testing President Trump. I was glad he issued the statement with the Prime Minister of Japan, but he also ought to do it quickly with South Korea. South Korea is probably more susceptible to North Korea's virulence than any other country. And there was some doubt cast on the relationship in the campaign by the then candidate Trump. So do the same thing with South Korea that he did with Japan and do it quickly. The real answer to curtailing North Korea is China. Like on so many other areas, China has been woefully inadequate, and they could squeeze North Korea economically. 90% of the imports and exports go through China. And I think we have to tell the Chinese that they have to put the wood to North Korea in a much more serious way than they've done so far.
우리 공화국 정부는 우리 공화국을 압살하는 적들의 재적 대등이 계속되는 한 핵무력을 중출하는 자적 국방력과 선제 공격 능력을 계속 강화할 것이라는 원칙적 입장을 명백히 밝혔습니다. 우리 인민은 반드시 우리의 힘으로 우리 국가와 세계 평화 안전을 수호하는 데 적극 기여할 것입니다.
우리는 실생활을 통하여 선군의 힘이 우리 조국을 지키고 민족을 지키는 힘이라는 것을 알게 되었습니다. 우리는 앞으로도 군우가 뭐라고 하든 자주의 길, 선군의 길로 나갈 것입니다.
North Korea uses its annual celebration of the birth of the country's founder, Kim Il-sung, to flaunt its missile arsenal and show off its armed forces to external enemies. Columns of goose-stepping soldiers marched in formation as the country's current leader, Kim Jong-un, waved from a balcony. There were several notable missile systems on display at Saturday's military parade. The Pukguksong-1 was displayed for the first time. It's an intermediate-range, submarine-launched ballistic missile that was successfully tested in August 2016. The Pukguksong-2 is the land-based variant of the Pukguksong-1. It was successfully tested in February 2017 and also was displayed for the first time on Saturday. The Scud-ER is designed to reach American military bases in South Korea and Japan. 4 of these were launched in March, with some splashing down in the waters of Japan's exclusive economic zone. The KN-08 was first unveiled in 2012 and is thought to have been designed as the country's first intercontinental ballistic missile. Experts say it has the potential to reach the west coast of the United States, but it has never been tested. One of the big surprises of the parade was the unveiling of potential new intercontinental ballistic missiles. Some experts say this canister could contain a variant of the KN-14, which was disclosed for the first time in 2015. And this appears to be yet another potential intercontinental ballistic missile. These launch tubes could also be empty decoys or mock-ups of systems still under development. On Sunday, a day after the parade, North Korea launched a ballistic missile, but it appeared to fail just after liftoff. In any case, North Korea was clearly trying to demonstrate that its military reach was expanding at a time of heightened tensions with the United States.
Let me be very clear. The policy of strategic patience has ended. We're exploring a new range of diplomatic, security, and economic measures. All options are on the table. If they elevate the threat of their weapons program to a level that we believe requires action, that option is on the table. While we acknowledge China's opposition, its economic retaliation against South Korea is inappropriate and troubling.
只想强调一点，就是我们坚决反对美韩在韩国部署萨德反导系统，也将坚决采取必要的措施来维护自身的安全利益。由此产生的一切后果由美韩来承担。我们再次强烈敦促有关的方面停止部署进程，不要在错误的道路上越走越远。
Hi, my name's Kim Han-sol from North Korea.
This is Kim Han-sol. He's a young college-educated 20-something, well-traveled and fluent in English.
I got to meet friends from all over the world.
In short, he's the antithesis of what most people in the West think of when they think of North Korea. There's something else unusual about him. His uncle is North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, a dictator who runs his country as a police state and a personality cult. Experts on North Korea suspect that it was Kim Jong-un who was behind the killing of Han Sol's father in an airport in Malaysia on February the 13th. So who is Kim Han-sol? He was born in Pyongyang, though he has lived abroad for most of his life. In the eyes of some observers, he seems to be a symbol of sorts for what North Korea could be: cosmopolitan and open to the outside world.
I like the food, the people are very nice here.
And then another possibility presents itself. Could this young man someday become the next leader of a more moderate, more engaged nation? Here's where Han Sol fits on the family tree. Kim Han Sol is the youngest male of the Kim family bloodline. He is the son of Kim Jong-nam, the recently assassinated half-brother of the current ruler, Kim Jong-un. Their father was Kim Jong-il, and his father was Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea. Han Sol has commented on politics in the past. He did the unthinkable by North Korean standards and called his uncle a dictator.
I really never met them in real life, so I really don't know how he became a dictator.
And in that same 2012 interview with a Finnish television station, he also expressed his wish to improve relations between North and South Korea.
I've always dreamed that one day I will go back and make things better and make it easier for the people there.
But many experts say the chances of Han Sol one day leading North Korea are slim. North Korea expert Bruce Cummings says Han Sol's genealogy would make him high royalty in his nation, but he's much too young. And most people in North Korea might not even know he exists. According to Stephen Norper, information in the country is so tightly controlled that any reference to Han Sol would likely never appear in the state-controlled press. It also seems highly unlikely current leader Kim Jong-un would pick a successor who has been so openly critical of him. Among North Korean elites, any defectors are considered enemies of the regime. Andrei Lankov says Han Sol would be considered an apostate. And his bloodline might even pose a threat to his life, like it did to his father, who was killed although he kept a low profile and was not known to have any political aspiration. Purges and targeted killings have allowed Kim Jong-un to consolidate his power. But even if he were somehow toppled, experts say it would likely mean the end of the Kim clan's dominance, not the rise of Han Sol.
So starting basically right now, that lunatic on a power trip is sitting on top of a bunch of atomic weapons and delivery systems that can hit Japan, South Korea, China, you name it. And that's why China has said, we need to de-escalate this right now, and North Korea, turn back your coal, your main export, and we may have to nuke you if you test a nuke. We don't know the deal behind the scenes with Trump and the Chinese dictator, but they've signaled that maybe Trump's going to sit back and the Chinese are going to hit North Korea. And the reason that the clock's ticking on this is they're getting better and better weapons. They're getting better missiles. So we just can't sit there and leave it alone anymore. That's why this is coming to a head. I get accused by MSM sometimes of fear-mongering when they're the ones that are actually pushing the world towards war. Quite frankly, I was sitting back looking at my children last night and this morning at breakfast, but at dinner and breakfast, and I was just thinking to myself how crazy this is and how the world has probably never been this close to all-out nuclear war than we are right now. That's what the analysts are saying. It's what the Chinese communists are saying. It's what the Pentagon's saying. It's what North Korea is saying. And you add all these other factors, Russia and Syria and social unrest and collapsing third world countries with huge migrant flows. We are entering a time of unprecedented crisis. Now, let me go over some of these headlines for radio listeners that tie into what I was just breaking down with this huge, and that's what it is, showdown tomorrow. I'm definitely going to have to be sitting by the little pocket studio that is an iPhone or Droid and being ready to go live tomorrow if anything begins to unfold, because tomorrow is the birthday of the first dictator of Korea, Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Jong-il's father. And they are saying they're going to test their biggest atomic weapon yet tomorrow, strangely enough, on an active fault line there, right there in the middle of the Pacific Rim, right across from Japan, by a quasi-active volcano. So we're literally entering a James Bond movie with a lot of seismologists, mainstream news saying it could cause a major earthquake or the volcano to explode like Mount St. Helens. NBC News, U.S. may launch strike if North Korea reaches for nuclear trigger. Now, the president came out. We have a clip coming up. It's on Infowars.com. And he said, North Korea is a problem that will be taken care of. I've given the military total authorization. That clip's coming up as well. But here are the headlines, because I tend to want to dial stuff back. But Japan's readying for nuclear war. Japan's getting 60,000 people out of South Korea, their citizens. North Korea just evacuated most people out of their capital city. This is serious. And you've got power-tripping loons in North Korea that can't even build an automobile and can't even keep electricity on but in 2 cities. But they've got a brainwashed mass of slaves that'll do whatever they're told in human wave attacks. And they've had a dictatorship since before the Korean War that killed over 1 million people on both sides. More bombs were dropped on North Korea in the Korean War, the Korea Police Action as it was called by the UN, than were dropped in all the Pacific Theater in World War II. So the Koreans are just kept in fear, ready for the U.S. to invade any minute, as they're told from birth to death, from cradle to grave, from the time they come out of their mother's womb till the time they get put 6 feet under. China warns World War III is inevitable as North Korea prepares latest nuke test. So we're in a massive countdown here. So let's look it up. When do they, let's look up actually. I meant to do this last night but forgot to. Can you guys do some research? My great team is even better at research than I run on the show. They do a great job there as well. But if the whole research team in there can look at past atomic tests, there's been 6 since Kim Jong-un ascended the communist throne of the people. Total oxymoron, but that's how it always works. When did they test them last time? During the day, late at night? Seems like sometimes in the middle of the night here, but that's in the middle of the day there. And that's where the time zones basically, what time is it in North Korea right now? Because we're talking in 12 hours or how long, most of their days are already going to be up over there. They're 13 hours ahead of us. So 13 hours from now, it'll be almost tomorrow here. So in the middle of the night tonight, when you tuck your children in to go to bed, from any time on then, they can do the test. In fact, sooner. If they're 13 hours ahead, then it's almost the 15th there right now. So anytime in the next 24 hours or so, they detonate this nuclear weapon, and there's been rumblings that Trump might strike it. And I understand why we haven't struck them before, because we don't have a nuclear war, but Kim Jong-un keeps getting better and better weapons, better and better missiles. Every week, the last few months, he fires a missile from North Korea 90 kilometers over and has high-powered missiles with conventional payloads to explode right off the Japanese coast, menacing them, saying, we'll launch nerve gas, we'll launch atomic weapons, we'll nuke you. If one shot gets fired by South Korea on the DMZ, if anything happens, if we hear a car backfire, we are going to unleash nuclear weapons on Japan, nuclear weapons on South Korea, conventional artillery barrage of 100,000 pieces of artillery. They don't have electricity, but they got artillery. Like any other knuckle-dragging communist hellhole. And then meanwhile, right next door, South Korea is 40 times more prosperous and one of the richest countries in the world, and they never had any freedom until the United States liberated them. They never had freedom. Koreans were always slaves. And now they get 50-something years of somewhat freedom, and they're the apple of the world's eye when it comes to so many things. Just there you go. Oh, but MIT is teaching high school and elementary school and middle school teachers how to teach communism to your class. Published by MIT. That's the technology we teach in America now. We invented the internet, but now we teach how to be good little communists. It's amazing. So, China warns World War III is inevitable as North Korea prepares latest nuke test. We will go to war if they choose. North Korea warns aggressive Trump not to provoke the North Korean capital. Breaking, Japan preparing to evacuate 60,000 citizens from South Korea. Now, this is a story from the UK Express that is hype, and I'm not defending Trump. I've looked at the already troop developments, the troop movements that were ordered under Obama that are continuing. Donald Trump edges closer to Russia. U.S. soldiers land in Europe after Afghan Moab. Donald Trump has sent U.S. military to Poland to joint NATO multinational battalion just after the U.S. president dropped the mother of all bombs, the Moab, on Afghanistan. Those troop deployments are rotations. They were already set. Obama put the order in to increase troops by at least 10,000 in the middle of last year. Remember that? Well, that's part of these rotations now taking place. Tillerson has said that the U.S.-Russian relations have hit bottom. That's a diplomatic way, in my research view, it's my opinion, researched opinion, to then say they need to get better, we've hit bottom, to shut down all the claims we're soft on Russia, saying we've hit bottom, now let's come back up. And, of course, that's what he said in the speech as well. Trump may send 50,000 troops to Syria. Well, I told you a couple weeks ago that from our sources, but also MSM admits it, they just don't say the numbers, there's well over 10,000 troops just the last month that have been injected into Iraq and into Syria. And right there in the border region, and they're forcing al-Qaeda, ISIS out. So that's all part of this escalation. Trump says it's just so that we can defeat al-Qaeda and ISIS and have their flank covered. I'll take that at face value because the president's done most of what he said he would do. But I got to tell you, I don't like it, and I'm watching it very, very closely because that makes Iraq and Afghanistan, that are horrible quagmires. Afghanistan is the known definition of a quagmire in the encyclopedia. This will be much, much worse than that. So that's just some of what we've got here, and I'm going to cover a lot more when we come back from break. But undoubtedly, when I go to bed tonight, while I'm sitting here right now, I mean, we're talking about an hour or so, it's going to be the new day over in the Korean Peninsula and the South China Sea and Japan and China. How this works is there's different angles, but they nuke test and then they start preparing to fire more rockets into the South China Sea, something they said they're getting ready to do. In fact, they told U.S. media, North Korea did yesterday, their state-run media said, prepare for a big event in the next 24 hours. Well, we're now 24 hours later. And I looked at that and I thought, 24 hours, that's the 14th, not the 15th. But when they said it, it was basically 24 hours for them. Because right now, as we speak in the next hour or so, it's going to be tomorrow there. So I thought, the big event's on the 15th. Why would they say it'd be today? And I went, oh, we're on the other side of the world. That's right. So starting basically right now, that lunatic on a power trip is sitting on top of a bunch of atomic weapons and delivery systems that can hit Japan, South Korea, China, you name it. And that's why China has said, we need to de-escalate this right now, and North Korea, turn back your coal, your main export, and we may have to nuke you if you test a nuke. We don't know the deal behind the scenes with Trump and the Chinese dictator, but they've signaled that maybe Trump's going to sit back and the Chinese are going to hit North Korea. And the reason that the clock's ticking on this is they're getting better and better weapons. They're getting better missiles. So we just can't sit there and leave it alone anymore. That's why this is coming to a head. China warns World War III is inevitable as North Korea prepares latest nuke test. Daily Express, Pyongyang, or however you say it, playing with fire. Trump prepared to intervene. World War III is near. Officials in China have warned as North Korea prepares for yet another nuclear missile test. And the U.S. and Donald Trump are poised to intervene. Now, the good news is Trump is signaling that he probably won't respond to a nuclear test. But if they fire another missile and then it crashes a couple miles off the coast of Japan and almost kills people in fishing boats, this happened multiple times, they're going to have to respond. Because he keeps threatening to put atomic weapons or nerve gas on top of them. You can't just sit there with a gun firing across your neighbor's yard when they're out there, you know, mowing the grass or whatever. That's basically what Kim Jong-un's doing. I don't particularly want Trump to strike, but what are you supposed to do when we have defense treaties with Japan, when they're getting upset, and then China's gotten so belligerent, us letting North Korea run around and do all this, that they're taking over the South China Sea. So this is Trump reasserting American sovereignty and dominance with our key trading partners. We're going to open the phones up and get your take on how you think Trump is handling this when we come back at the next segment. China calls for halt to U.S.-North Korea tensions. The media had spun this saying, oh, North Korea says there's a big event coming the next day. And then I guess it was, Daria pointed this out to me, it was a street opening. So they hyped it like a big event was coming. There's other big events, too, the nuclear test. They've talked about that for a long time. But our media ran with this, so that's an example of how you get more information. Concerns have been growing that North Korea could soon conduct a 6th nuclear test or more missile launches